This is Unit 7, and we're talking about percents. Our learning target for Day 3 is I can write and solve percent problems. Today we're going to get some more practice using both the proportion method and the percent equation method. And we're going to solve some multi-step problems. So let's see. We're going to use our proportion method the first time. It says one baseball team won 34 games throughout their entire season. Of all their games, this team won 85% of them. Given this, how many games in total did this baseball team play? We know that they won 34 games, so that's part of their games. So let's write our proportion equation. Here's our proportion equation. We know that they won 34 of the total. We don't know the total, so B is our variable. So we're going to substitute 34 in for the games they won and 85 in for our percent, and then we're going to solve for B. In this case, I'm using cross products. So I did 34 times 100 equals 85 times B, and I solved for B, and I found out that there are 40 total games. So let's go back and make sure that makes sense. If there are 40 total games and I won 34 of them, or the baseball team won 34 of them, is that about 85%? Well, sure, because half of the games would be 20, and this is much more than half. So 85% does sound reasonable. So the team played 40 games. Here we used our percent proportion to find out the number of total games played. Here we have a problem that says for one algebra test, Jill had to answer 20 questions. Of these questions, Jill answered 14 of them correctly. What percent did Jill get on her algebra test? So now we're going to use our percent equation. So I'm going to write down the equation, and I'm going to see what I have to plug in and substitute. I have 14 of them correct out of the total. So we have the part of 14, and we have the total of 20, and we're looking for the percent. So if I substitute in, this is what I have, and then I can solve. I'm going to use my multi-step equation way to solve this one, and I get percent is 70%. So let's go back and make sure that makes sense. 14 out of 20 is 70%. So half of 20 would be 10, and it's more than 10, but not too much more. So yes, that makes sense. Jill earned 70% on her test. Okay, we have the same problem, and we're going to do it the two different ways. It's a multi-step problem, and it says your food bill at a restaurant is $24. You leave a 20% tip. The sales tax is 6%. What is the total cost of the meal? Now, to calculate the tip, you're going to use the total cost of the food. So it would be 20% of 24. We also need to come back and calculate the sales tax on the food. So we're going to find 6% of the 24. And then we're going to add those three numbers together. So first, we're going to find the amount of the tip. We know that it's 20%, and we know the total is 24. So we found out that the money that they're going to spend on the tip, the 20% tip, is $4.80. We used our proportion to find that out. Then we're going to look at our sales tax. 6% of 24, well, that turns out to be $1.44. So in addition to the $4.80 for the tip, they're going to pay $1.44 for the tax. Again, you only tax the food. So to find out the total bill, I need to add the $24 plus the $4.80 plus the $1.44 to get $30.24. That's the total cost of the meal. Now, in this particular situation, we used proportions to figure out what money was used to add to the total bill. Now we're going to do the same problem again, but we're going to use our percent equation. So we have the amount of tip we're calculating first. We're going to take, here's our part, equals the percent times the base. It's 20% of $24, so that would be 20% is the same as 0.20 times 24, which is $4.80. Now we're going to calculate the sales tax. That's 6% of $24. Remember, of means multiply. So 6% as a decimal is 0.06. And so we're going to multiply that by 24 to get $1.44. This should all look familiar. And then when we add them together, we're going to get the same cost of $30.24. So it didn't matter if we used our percent equation or if we used the proportion. Okay, here are two problems for you to try on your own. The first one says, at the beginning of March, a store bought an iron bench at a cost of $80 and marked it up 65%. At the end of the month, the iron bench had not sold, so the store marked it down 50%. What is the discounted price? So first I'm going to find out 65% of $80, and then I'm going to add that amount to my $80 because this is marked it up. So after I find out what 65% of $80 is, I'm going to add it to my $80 to find out what they want to sell the bench for. And then the second step would be finding the discount. If you get 50% off of that price, what are you actually going to pay? So try that problem. And here's another problem. A microwave was marked up 175% from an original purchase of $60. Yesterday, May sold the microwave, earning a 20% commission on the sale price. How much commission did she make from this sale? So first I need to find out 175% of the $60. So that was what it was marked up. I need to add that much to the $60 to find out what they sold it for. And then when I find 20% of that, I'll know how much May made from making that sale. Before you finish, tell me something that you learned or were reminded of and a question that you have.